Hello and welcome to Project Minerva, where we give you tips and advice on how to be a better Minecraft builder. Today, we will take a look at how to add depth to your Minecraft builds. The first thing I'd like to talk about is depth of building. And many times you see photos on Facebook or on videos or playthroughs of basically this sort of building. You know, obviously we're talking a single wall here, for example, but basically a flat wall with a door. And, you know, that's people's houses. What can be key to making a building or a piece of art is depth. And the last thing that you want is just a building like this with a flat wall, no texturing, no nothing. And the other thing that's very common to see too is people, you know, filling in maybe like the sides with timbers and that, and basically saying, yep, there's my house. So very flat. And it's not at all resembles what is in real life. So let's just use this wall as an example and what different things we could do to it to make it stand out a bit more. Now, the first thing that we could probably do is look for a contrasting color. And I'm going to, this example sort of very much in a modern sort of theme with the color things. You could just give it an outline, just around the sides as a starting point with a contrasting color, just to give that sort of a defined edge, a bit more depth. The next thing you can do is you could actually look to put items into the wall to give it further depth with like a completely different sort of thing and set it back. So for example here, we might use some dark oak. And what we can do to break this up a little bit is just put a pattern in. Sorry, I have done that wrong. Just back, inset a little bit. Just inset from the primary building line. And what that does then is it gives it a different look, a different feel than what you've started with. So just a sort of a different look. Then you might, what you want to do is maybe bring this here like this. Just like something a little bit different. And what you could also do, just to be a little bit, not tricky, but a little bit of variety and add some lighting to the situation, you could just hide the lights in there like that. Now already it's looking different. It's looking textured. It's got depth to it. It's not just a building. The other thing that you might be able to do, for example, is something like this, where you can use stairs to actually give a line to the building. Do we put another one in? Maybe we do. So something like that. It looks textured. It looks different. It's not just a flat wall anymore. And at nighttime, obviously, at nighttime, those sort of areas are going to light up. Now, I am going to change this a little bit. Now, sometimes when you're building things, you go, ooh, it's sort of not in scale. It's not quite right. And that's something that you develop with time and something that you sort of develop as you're going. And to me, I feel that that should have been a little bit higher. Just a little bit. And then you sort of go back and you go, yeah. That looks better. And then we can repeat what we did before. But that's something that comes with experience and what is to your eye. Now, there might be people watching this video and going, hey, where you had it before was perfect. We liked that. Yeah, I accept that. But to me, that looked better. And at the end of the day, I got to make myself happy. Now, the other things that we can do is maybe to highlight here, we could look for different sort of blocks you wouldn't normally use. Now, don't be afraid to use things that are different, that are outside the box. For example, here, I'm going to use some lapis blocks just to give a highlight of a different color around this little inset area. It just gives it a pop, and it's another little detail that you can sort of do to make it look different and make it look, I don't know, textured, but something else that grabs the eye. Go, oh, what's that up there? That's a bit different. What else can we do to this wall? already looking 100% better, but there's more we could do. Possibly a window feature. Now, the other thing I've seen a lot of people do is if we grab some glass, and let's put this in here. They'll go boom, boom, boom. Oh, there's my window. Happy days. There's my window. Yeah, technically you're right. But again, it's flat. Don't be afraid to try things. That's the key for good building. Don't be afraid. What I would probably do here, in this case, and I would use some black, which is slightly contrasting, kind of relates to that palette there, but just the panes. As you can see, you've got depth. All of a sudden, you've got depth. Now, the other thing you might like to do, instead of using those sort of things, is again using stairs. That's not the right one. Don't be afraid to experiment. Experiment is key. Anything that you think could give a difference or a change. Now, the other thing that we could probably do here, there's so many things, so many ideas going through my mind right now what we could do. The other thing we could do is the door. Now, the door, yeah, doors can be tricky, but there is a thing that we can use to make it better. Now, as good as these doors are, for an aesthetic build, it's not what you want to do. Now, this is a building technique that I've actually seen used by GoodTimesWithScar, and I think it honestly is brilliant. You need at least a 3 wide space and 3 wide high, at least. And the first thing that you do is, and I'm going to just change this to, no, I will use clear for the example. You start off by putting a pane of glass on each side, and then one on the top ones, just like this. Then you grab in, you can use any sort of fence gate, fence you like, and then boom, you have got yourself a door, a closing door, a glass door like you see on restaurants, some shopping places, professional places, things like that. So many things that you can do. And frankly, I think that just looks absolutely spiffy. But to me, it's still not finished. It's not right just yet. So what we're probably going to do is go back to our faithful stairs, and just over the top, we're just going to put a little cover. That's right. As simple as that, just a little cover. With this style of door, even though you can't close it, so for a survival map, it's probably not ideal for a base, but for an aesthetic build or a shop in a shopping district or something like that, it's absolutely perfect. It gives depth, it gives character, and it gives some life to an otherwise flat wall. This sort of thing, to me, you still need to break up around here because there is a little bit too much white, and there's things that you can do. You might, it's just a variety. You might like to extend this up a bit more. I wouldn't like to do that because it gives a little bit too much symmetry, and when I build, I don't like the symmetry, but in certain situations it works well. But how I would probably choose to break this one up, probably something like this. Is that something I want to do? And this is the beauty of Minecraft, is there's 1,000 options you've got for adding greenery to places and just to give it a bit more depth. On this particular example, just to give it that, break up that white just a little bit more. And that there is perfect. There's other things you could do to change it, but it does, you can see we've gone from a flat wall with a door and a little window to something that looks modern. It looks stylized, and it's got depth, it's got character, it's got things that draw the eye, it's got lines. It doesn't have symmetry, so it's always interesting. And there's 1,000 things you can do, and that's the beauty of Minecraft. So with the style of door, there's even different things you can do with the style of door. So as long as you've got this particular style, as long as you've got 3 in between, 1, 2, or 3, there's so many things that you can do, right? So last one we had was a 3 high door. Right, a 3 high door, but you can make that a little bit bigger. Now let me just give you an example of this and what you could probably do just to make it that little bit bigger, a little bit more grand. Now obviously we're using different materials here, but that's fine. And as you can see, you've got something a bit different. But again, maybe we want to go even more different. So in that case, what we do, in that case, we come across here. You know, that fills out the door. But if I could actually take off, we might like to detail it just with some, like a decorative piece at the top. Boom. And then all of a sudden, you have got a much more formal, regal looking door that takes up a larger space, but it's still the same design concept. It's just how far you want to take that and actually deliver on it. But again, this is Minecraft, so there's nothing wrong. There's no wrong or right way to build. It's just personal preference. But I hope that this gives you some idea about adding depth and design and character to otherwise flat walls. So let's take a look at these principles in action by building a restaurant in our city. The front of the building we can see follows the same principles to add depth to the build. As we come around the first corner, you can see a seating area has been added to bring life to it. As we fly through the drive-through, you can see the depth principles continue so to avoid a flat surface. To add another touch of life, you can see a dumpster with some garbage bags beside it. Finally, you will have noticed walls with kelp in them, giving the build some decoration and animation. As we take a look at the inside of the build, we can see a variation on the standard black and white checkered floors common in this theme. You will notice the kelp walls are visible from both sides, bringing the animation to the inside also. Indented ceiling lighting gives both depth to the ceiling as well as adding much needed lighting. Behind the food service area, blocks such as furnaces and looms create the image of grills and ovens, with tripwire hooks acting as taps over the sink. Finally, we make our way to the corner where a wood-fired pizza oven sits waiting.